Welcome, everybody, to Creative Mornings Charlotte. Welcome. I'm Matt Olin. I'm your host, and I'm a citizen of Charlotte, and I love this city. I love all the citizens of this city so much, and gathering together with each of you every month to celebrate the creative spirit of Charlotte, to celebrate the innate creativity inside each one of us. We feature some art by some amazing Charlotte artist every month, and this month it is our very own, she's on our team, it's Monica Reef, and if you haven't seen that work yet, she's incredible. So we're sending our love out to all of our chapters around the world, and we always do a shout out every month to a chapter because we are 177 chapters strong now, 177 chapters around the world, courtesy of one of our great partners, Providence Day. And you talk about a global school. I mean, they have 1,600 students there. 25% of them are students of color. 16% of them get financial aid. In fact, this year alone, $3.5 million worth of financial aid. And again, talk about a global school. Over 60 different countries are represented in their campus community. So it makes them a perfect fit for this segment of Creative Mornings. So we're going to shout out Seattle, a really vibrant chapter on the other side of the country. So I'm going to pull up my phone, and we're going to just say, "Hey, Seattle, have a Creative Morning." Thank you, Providence Day, for that. Why do we do this every month? Well, we have a manifesto that we just love. It starts with everyone is creative, and we really believe that. It ends with everyone is welcome. What I want to point out this morning is that it requires hard work and action. A creative life does require action, right?
Time to give out some hugs. My name is Tim Miner. I am the co-leader of Creative Mornings Charlotte. So excited about this Hug Grant program. We had 20 more amazing projects come forward. The hardest problem is picking the 4 that get it. Because there's an incredible creative spirit and so much passion. Thankfully, we have amazing partners like Ortho Carolina and Blair Primus and Tanya Reed with T. Reed and Company and all our other sponsors who have jumped up and said, we want to support this. Whether it's a not-for-profit idea, whether it's the germ of an idea of a business you want to start and it's creative in nature, whatever discipline it is, go to huggrant.com and apply. The 4 projects for this month is CPCC Geek Fest. The second is Bon Bicyclette, the Charlotte Writers Fair, and Sugar Creek Charter School. So 4 incredible projects. We'll have 4 more next month. Thank you to the generous spirit of this community and of our sponsors.
We're giving out hugs. We're giving out hugs every month. That's right. We're going to invite up to the stage, to the Charlotte Star Room music stage. Please give a warm welcome to Charlotte's own Britt Drozda. Come on up, Britt.
All the photographs in this house show what we have made. Dreams came true, oh how they look just like you. Staring up into your eyes, I pull a memory from your gaze. Gotta do what I always will. Love you, and I know what they claim it's like in heaven, but I prefer to stay on earth with what
I'm super excited to bring Haley up. Okay, so Haley, in addition to being a great friend, right? Haley has graduated from NC State University with a B, right? Go Pack, that's right. With a BS in mechanical engineering and has worked both in product development for a Fortune 500 company and in project management for a local tech company. But then, here we go. Then Haley founded Skill Pop, which is a company working to make in-person learning accessible here in Charlotte through hosting community-based pop-up classes on topics such as photography, gardening, social media, and more, all taught by local professionals. And as the company's CEO, she and her team recently expanded Skill Pop to Raleigh, right? And then expanded it to Greenville, and soon to Nashville. So talk about some pioneering spirit, man. This is so exciting. The company has held over 850 classes and has facilitated learning for over 10,000 students. Folks, she doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to introduce her. Please welcome to speak to us about our theme of Pioneer, Haley Bohon. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Good morning. Well, I sat down with Tim Miner a couple months ago to talk about this, and I asked him what made a a great Creative Mornings talk, because I'm here, I want to do a good job, so I want to know what makes a great talk. And he said, you know, Haley, if you can just be yourself, if you can be really honest, really open, be really vulnerable, if you can just bare your heart and soul, put it all out there, that makes a great talk. And I said, okay, well, what makes like an okay talk? Like, let's say we're going for like a 6 out of 10. How do we do a 6 out of 10? No, all joking aside, I'm super, super honored and excited to be here, and simultaneously thrilled and a little bit intimidated to get to speak on the global theme of pioneer. I've known that I would be speaking today for a little while, so I've had a lot of time to wrestle with it, and for most of that time, I honestly did not feel super qualified. When I hear the word pioneer, I think of heroes and legends. I think of people who have done world-changing things, who have climbed the mountain, who have swum upstream, who have gone against the grain and come back and finished and lived to tell the tale. That's where our mind goes, right? Is that where your mind goes? So I'm going to tell you my story today. I'm going to tell you who I am and where I came from and what Skill Pop is and all of that. But I want to be clear about where we are, and this is not from the top of the mountain or the other side of success. This is not from something that's finished. I run a startup called Skill Pop that is 2 years old. We have grown fast. It has been crazy, but we are still in the middle, and it's still messy, and we still don't know exactly where things will go or where we'll end up. So that being said, what I have done and what I have learned before I discount myself too much is what it's like to start and what that feels like, what the nitty-gritty is like, and at its root, that's what pioneering is. It is really simple. Pioneering is just starting. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What I've learned about pioneering kind of revolves around 3 different themes. Those themes, I think, are breaking the rules, taking the first step, and then also just what happens after you start, what happens after you take those first steps. So that is where we're going. My husband said last night he doesn't like it when speakers tell you where they're going, but I'm telling you where we're going. I feel like it's helpful. All right, well, I grew up with a really normal, traditional childhood in Greensboro, North Carolina. Any Piedmont people here? Hey, a couple. Right down the road from here, Greensboro, North Carolina. I was a really good kid. I loved to read. I took piano lessons. I was into science and math. I played with friends. I was really competitive, also not athletic. Recently called crochet a sport, so that's about some of my athletic abilities. Pretty normal childhood. And like any good kid, I grew up the way I was supposed to grow up. As I got older and went through grade level after grade level, I took the classes and did the extracurriculars and played one sport because I had to put it on my resume, just so that I could have all the checklists, all the bullet points to get into the college I wanted to go to. From friends, peers, mentors, family, from what I was telling myself, I knew what the path was supposed to be. I was ready to follow it. Go to college, get a practical major, study hard, make friends, do internships, get a good, reliable, well-paying 401k matching job when you graduate, because that is what you do. It sounds like that's what other people thought too. I knew the path and I was following it to a T until about 18 months after college and into that first stable, reliable 401k matching job. At 24 years old, I was a product development engineer for a large company up in Huntersville. I studied engineering, so it was just a very clear next step. It was a job that brought me to Charlotte. It was a great opportunity. It was a great team, and I always thought that's where I would be for the first chunk of my career. But 18 months in, this was 4 years ago, so I just wasn't happy. It wasn't right for me. I didn't want my boss's job. I didn't want his boss's job, and to me, that was a sign that it wasn't the path I should be on. But I thought I knew what that path was supposed to look like. Study hard, get good grades, make friends, take internships, get the job, stay there 3 years or 4 or 5 or more until you get to that next rung on the ladder. But over time, that rung just looked less and less right. I didn't love my job. I didn't want my boss's job. And so with shaky hands, I turned in my notice, shifted directions entirely, and just went off the path and broke the rules that I thought were there. I didn't know it then, this was about 4 years ago, but that relatively minor career shift, it felt dramatic, but at the time it was still relatively minor. It was a moment that changed everything for me, because when I stopped doing what I was supposed to do, I realized that the supposed to was in my head. It was not a real thing. When I broke the rules, life opened up in a huge new way, and I realized most of the rules I was living by were self-imposed and not really ever there to begin with. So you might not have grown up thinking your life would look the way I grew up thinking my life would look. I think we all have some kind of something in our heads of the next few years or what that picture will look like down the road. We move from life stage to the next with the rules we're trying to follow, whether that is when you're supposed to have a family or when you're supposed to get promoted, when you're supposed to make a big job change or when you're supposed to move or how long you're supposed to stay in Charlotte. I think we all have those whispers of the supposed tos. Pioneering is about starting, but you can't start the next thing if you're held back by invisible rules that aren't even there to begin with. Funny enough, like I said, I thought this was a really dramatic job change. I thought this was like my big thing of breaking the rules, going against the grain, not doing what I thought I was going to do. And this was a world before Skill Pop was even an idea. A little over a year later, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was still working for that tech startup that I threw away my old career for when things changed again in a super big way. And if you've heard me tell how Skill Pop got started, that's kind of where we're going. That's what I'm telling now. At 26, I was recently married. I'd lived here in Charlotte long enough to get my bearings, to find a community, settle into our neighborhood. My life had a really good rhythm and routine, and everything felt good. But I tend to be a dreamer and a what-if kind of person, so I would come home from work often, and my husband's the same way, and we would say, well, why don't we just quit our jobs and do X, Y, and Z, or there should be a better solution for fill in the blank, or we'd see a problem we wanted to solve and be brainstorming all the ways we could solve it. But it all just felt fun and hypothetical and like the conversations you have over a late night glass of wine until one night in June of 2015. I started talking about education, about taking classes, why it was so hard to do. Learning has trended online for a decade or more. And that's now not how I ever learned best. But what I noticed was finding real-life, in-person classes with someone right there was not that easy. So I started to ask questions like, why can't you take a photography class as easily as you can take a yoga class? Why does the bar for learning something new become so high? 12-week seminars, complicated registrations, thousands of dollars, once you move on from this growing up life where learning is all you do. And kind of leads to, most importantly, why do we act like learning and taking classes is just for that first phase of life? Why do we act like it's over once you turn 18 or 20 or 22? I could not shake this idea that there was a space to make in-person learning better and to bring the classroom back. So I talked to anyone and everyone who would listen. So if we were friends in 2015, I'm sorry. I was fleshing out ideas. My Facebook friends were taking surveys. I dominated the conversation on vacation, and I really, truly held people hostage when they came to my house, asking them about how they learned, what they liked to do, how they picked up new hobbies. Every spare moment was spent fine-tuning the concept, just playing with it, doing research, writing a business plan, building out a pricing model and a brand. And more I felt confirmation that, yes, something was missing from the education industry. And that learning new things is something that people want to be simpler, and that this was work I was really excited about. So it wasn't called Skill Pop yet, but the beginnings were there, and as details fell into place, I just kept asking myself the question, what's the next step for making this possible? Not the next 10 steps or the next 100 steps, just the next step. I had an idea that felt right, and it felt like something we're starting. So Skill Pop started with a series of steps scrawled out on a piece of lined paper. A domain name, and this really is the piece of lined paper. A domain name, a really small newsletter, a drag and drop website. It was not cute, but it did the job. A beta class. 2 years later, and we have grown faster than I've ever imagined. And if you have spent the last 10 minutes wondering what the heck is Skill Pop, I'm going to tell you right now. So we are a company working to make in-person learning accessible through pop-up classes like the ones you're seeing on everything from photography to marketing to backyard gardening to hip-hop dance. We have a small team here in Charlotte. We partner with local makers, creatives, business leaders. A lot of our teachers are here to host classes and community spaces. Like Matt was saying, we've actually done over 1,000 classes now and seen 13,000 people engage with their communities through education. Everyone's startup story, if you know startup founders or if you work for a startup, you know everyone's story is different. But for mine, there was not one big leap or one huge moment of jumping off. There were many, many small moments of research, of taking people to coffee, of pitching the idea, of cold emails, just many small moments of holding to the vision tight and taking the next step. So pioneering, when we think about pioneering, it's about starting. To start, you have to break the rules, but then to start, you also have to just take that first step. Not the next 100 steps, not the next 10, but just know what the first step is, what the next step is, and to take it. So we've talked about what pioneering means so far, breaking rules and first steps. But there's one more big theme I want to talk about, and it's what happens after you take that first step. We do have a public speaking class at SkillPop, so I feel a lot of pressure to do very well today because I've sat in on the class. And I don't know if they've ever technically said this, but I feel like you're not supposed to use really lame analogies, but I'm going to use a lame analogy. They don't tell you to do that in the class, so still take the class. It's really good. So the last thing I want to share is just as much as pioneering is about being brave and about taking first steps and breaking rules, you know what it feels like? It feels like climbing a mountain. When you start at the bottom, you're full of energy and you're looking towards the top and you say, this is my mountain. This is something worth doing. This is something worth climbing. This is a trail that must be blazed, and I'm the one to blaze it. I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I don't care if they don't respect me. I don't care if they don't think I can do it. I'm climbing this mountain. The first few steps up the mountain are energizing and exciting, and your boots are laced tight, and you feel good, and you're ready to go. And at the top, and remember, I have not been to the top, but at the top, I would imagine that it feels really good. That the tree's clear, and you look out across, you see a great view, and the breeze hits you, and you say, man, look at this view. Look at all these people who climbed this with me. You look back with scraped knees and sweat on your forehead, and you say, what a good and hard, but what a worthy journey it has been. The beginning, full of hope and joy and excitement. And the end, I think, will be full of satisfaction and gratitude. But what about the middle? In the middle of climbing mountains, sometimes there are just lots of trees and lots of rocks. And there are days where the sun comes out and it hits your back and it's warm, and there are days where it hides behind the clouds. There are moments where you feel so aware of how far you've come, but also moments where you realize how far you have to go and how risky it is, and that you are not 100% sure which way the trail is supposed to wind. There are days where you have people there, and a lot of my people are in this room, and they are pushing you, and they are cheering for you, and they are with you, and they are following you. And there are days where you look around and you think, did anyone tell these people that I have never climbed a mountain before? Did anyone tell them that I had this grand idea and got really excited about it, and then I sat down and I Googled how to climb a mountain? So this is the part where I bare my soul. I know what it's like to start something, and right now I know what it's like to feel in the middle, for it to feel a little messy, for it to feel a little tired. I have heard things like, holy cow, can you believe what your team has done so far? And I love that. And it's been a good 2 years, but I look up towards the top, and I look back towards where we've come from, and I think, yeah, so far so good, but I don't know exactly which way we're supposed to go next. And I am tired, and I kind of just want to sit down for a minute. I have days where we hit records, where we have amazing new classes and milestones, and our community of teachers and students just grow, where we see friendships formed, new hobbies kicked off, businesses started, partnerships started, because someone took a SkillPop class. And that's crazy. It's crazy to me. Oh, thank you so much. And then I have days where the mountain feels hard, and I feel stretched thin and worn out, and I know I've let people down, and that shine and newness of those early days have a little bit worn off. On the hard days in the middle, in between the shine of the beginning and the satisfaction on the end, that's what pioneering feels like too. I think that's a lot of what pioneering feels like. But that's when I remind myself, this is still a good and worthy journey. This is something worth doing. This mountain is worth climbing. I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I don't care if it's hard. This is something worth doing, and I'm going to keep doing it. So if you are thinking of starting something, if you have started something, whether that is a better culture at work, whether that's a hard conversation that needs to be had, leaving one job for another, starting a side hustle, joining my team to launch Skill Pop in Nashville, I'm hiring, tell your friends. If any of those or any number of things need to be started in your life, you are a pioneer. So know, friends, that the rules holding you back are not really rules. They are not there. Know that starting does not mean knowing what the next 10,000 steps look like. It means knowing the next step, the one next step, and taking it. Know to trust your gut and know that the journey, as cheesy as it is, may be rough and lonely and exhausting, but that does not keep it from being worthy. So best of luck as you all go and pioneer. Thank you.
Haley Bohon, everybody!
Thank you.
Our pioneer!